The saurians and arachnids had been fighting for 300 years. Both species came from harsh planets that most aliens called Deathworlds. These planets had strong gravity, extreme temperatures, and dangerous animals. Living on such difficult worlds made both species very tough and aggressive. The saurians looked like walking lizards with green scales. They had yellow eyes with narrow pupils and stood on two legs. Their bodies were covered in natural armor, and they built ships with strong metal hulls. The Saurian Confederation controlled 17 star systems and wanted more. The arachnids resembled giant spiders with 8 legs and multiple eyes. Their bodies had hard outer shells and they could make natural poisons. Their ships looked almost alive and released swarms of smaller craft in battle. The Arachnid Collective also ruled 17 systems and hungered for expansion. Neither side would back down. Neither side could win. The war seemed endless until something new entered their battle. The USS Frontier moved slowly through unfamiliar space. The human warship wasn't supposed to be here. A problem with its faster-than-light drive had sent it far beyond charted space. Commander Alan Brooks stood on the bridge, his blue uniform neat despite the crisis. He was 45 years old with short gray hair and a serious face. "Any idea where we are, Lieutenant Miller?" he asked. Kate Miller worked at the science station. She was 32 with brown hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "No, sir. The stars don't match any of our maps," she said, "but I'm picking up energy readings ahead, very powerful ones." Paul Davis spoke from the navigation console. He was a young officer with dark skin and a calm voice. "Commander, there seem to be ships ahead, many ships. They appear to be fighting." Brooks straightened up. "Show me." The main screen changed to show 2 groups of ships firing at each other. One group had metal ships shooting bright beams. The other had strange, organic-looking vessels releasing clouds of smaller ships. "Magnify," Brooks ordered. The screen zoomed in on one of the metal ships. Its surface was covered in what looked like heavy armor. Energy weapons fired from multiple points along its hull. "Those energy readings are off the charts," Miller said. "Whatever weapons they're using, they're far more powerful than ours." Valerie Martinez turned from her communication station. Her black hair was cut short, and worry lines creased her forehead. "Sir, I'm receiving transmissions. The computer can't translate everything, but both sides seem to be claiming this area as their territory." Brooks frowned. "Are they aware of us yet?" "I don't think so," Davis said. "We're at the edge of their sensor range, and they seem focused on each other." "Full stop," Brooks ordered. "Hold position here. Let's not attract attention until we know what we're dealing with." The USS Frontier stopped moving, but kept its sensors active. The crew watched as the battle continued ahead of them. Greg Johnson's voice came over the intercom from engineering. He was the ship's chief engineer, 50 years old with strong hands and a practical mind. "Commander, I've assessed the damage to the Hawking drive. It's bad news, sir. We can't jump back to Earth space without major repairs." Brooks took a deep breath. "Understood. How long to make repairs?" "That's the problem, sir," Johnson replied. "We need special materials we don't have on board." Brooks looked at the battle on the screen. "So we're stuck here, on the edge of an alien war, with no way home." "Yes, sir," Johnson confirmed, "unless we can find the materials we need somewhere in this system." Brooks called a meeting in the ship's conference room. All senior officers gathered around the table. The lights were dim as Miller presented what they knew about the alien species. "Both species evolved on planets much like each other," she explained. "High gravity, extreme weather, and predators everywhere. But they developed very different bodies to survive." She showed scans of a saurian. "This reptilian species has natural armor and can regrow lost limbs. Their technology focuses on energy weapons and heavy armor." Next came an image of an arachnid. "This species uses biological weapons and seems to have enhanced their own bodies. They fight in swarms and use poison attacks." Frank Carter, the security chief, leaned forward. He was a muscular man with a scar across his right cheek. "Can we defend ourselves if they notice us?" Miller shook her head. Their weapons would cut through our shields in seconds. Our best defense is to stay hidden. The meeting was interrupted when Martinez's voice came over the intercom. Commander Brooks to the bridge immediately. We're being hailed. Everyone rushed. Back to the bridge. On the main screen was the face of a saurian. Its green scales shimmered under the lights of its ship. Its yellow eyes with vertical pupils stared at them with clear intelligence. Unknown vessel, the creature said, its words translated by the computer. You have entered the battle space of the Saurian Confederation. Identify yourself or be destroyed. Brooks stepped forward. I am Commander Alan Brooks of the Earth ship, USS Frontier. We are explorers who arrived here by accident. We mean no harm to anyone. The Saurian's eyes narrowed. Earth? This name is unknown to us. You will submit to boarding and inspection. If you resist, we will destroy your vessel. Before Brooks could answer, another signal cut in. The screen split to show a different alien. This one had multiple eyes and a hard outer shell. Mammal ship, this new creature said in clicking sounds the computer translated. Do not trust the Saurians. They will kill your crew and take your technology. The Arachnid Collective offers protection if you help us against our enemy. Brooks looked at his officers. Davis whispered. 3 Saurian ships are breaking away from the main fleet. They're heading toward us. How long until they reach us? Brooks asked. 15 minutes, Davis replied. Brooks turned back to the screen. We need time to consider. Your requests, please allow us. There is nothing to consider, the Saurian interrupted. Submit or be destroyed. The Arachnid clicked its mandibles. Ally with us or die with the Saurians. Brooks signaled to cut the transmission. The alien faces disappeared from the screen. Options? Brooks asked his crew. Miller pointed to a dense field of asteroids nearby. We could hide in there. Our ship is smaller and more maneuverable than theirs. That might buy us some time, Carter agreed. Brooks nodded. Set course for the asteroid field, full impulse power. We need to figure out a way out of this mess before those aliens tear us apart. The USS Frontier turned and sped toward the asteroids, with 3 Saurian warships in pursuit. Caught between 2 ancient enemies, the human crew would need all their ingenuity to survive. The USS Frontier weaved through the asteroid field. The human ship was smaller than the alien vessels chasing it. Commander Brooks watched from the bridge as Navigation Officer Davis guided them deeper into the dense cluster of space rocks. The Saurian ships have slowed down, Lieutenant Miller reported from her science station. They're too big to follow us through the narrower passages, Officer Martinez added. Sir, the Arachnid fleet has also dispatched 3 ships. They're approaching the asteroid field from the other side. Brooks nodded. So, we're being hunted by both sides. They must think we have something valuable. The ship shuddered as a piece of energy weapon fire hit a nearby asteroid. The impact sent rock fragments bouncing off the Frontier's hull. Shields at 87%, Carter said from the tactical station. One direct hit from their weapons could cripple us. Brooks turned to Miller. What have you learned about these species? Why are they fighting? Miller displayed data on her screen. Based on their communications and what I can translate, they've been at war for 300 years. Both evolved on harsh planets with extreme conditions. Both are territorial and see the other as a threat. This area seems to be rich in resources they both want. And now we're caught in the middle. Brooks said. Davis called out, Commander, I've found a large cavity inside one of the bigger asteroids. We could hide there and mask our energy signature. Do it, Brooks ordered. The Frontier slipped inside a massive, hollowed-out asteroid. Once inside, they powered down all non-essential systems to avoid detection. How are repairs coming, Johnson? Brooks asked over the comm. In engineering, Chief Engineer Johnson wiped sweat from his forehead. Not good, sir. We need a special crystal to fix the Hawking drive. Without it, we're stuck here. What kind of crystal? Brooks asked. A quantum stabilizer crystal, Johnson replied. Extremely rare. Miller looked up from her science station. Sir, I've been scanning the nearby planets while we were traveling. The 4th planet in this system shows readings consistent with quantum stabilizer crystals. Can we get there with these aliens hunting us? Brooks asked. Carter shook his head. Not without a fight. Brooks thought for a moment. What if we could make these aliens stop fighting each other long enough for us to get what we need and leave? The officers looked at him with doubt. Martinez spoke first. Sir, they've been at war for centuries. How could we possibly stop that? We need more information, Brooks said. Lieutenant Miller, continue analyzing their communications. Learn everything you can about both species. Officer Martinez, try to isolate their command frequencies. While the Frontier hid, Miller studied the aliens. Hours later, she presented her findings to the commander. The Saurians are hierarchical, she explained. They respect strength and direct confrontation. The arachnids operate more as a collective, but they have leaders who make decisions. Both species evolved natural weapons and defenses because their homeworlds were so dangerous. Anything we could use to our advantage? Brooks asked. Miller hesitated. There is one thing. From what I can tell, both species have extremely efficient metabolisms adapted to their high-gravity worlds. They process oxygen differently than we do. Earth bacteria might be extremely dangerous to them. Are you suggesting biological warfare? Carter asked, frowning. No, Miller said quickly. Just pointing out that they might find our world as hostile, as we would find theirs. It's a mutual deterrent. Brooks nodded slowly. That gives me an idea. A warning alarm interrupted them. Davis called from navigation. Commander, both alien fleets are moving. They've stopped fighting each other and are scanning the asteroid field systematically. They're looking for us. Time until they find us? Brooks asked. At their current rate, less than an hour, Davis replied. Brooks stood up. We need to act now. Officer Martinez, open channels to both fleet commanders. Sir? Martinez looked confused. We're going to talk our way out of this, Brooks said, and we'll need to bluff. Martinez worked at her console. Channels open, sir. The main screen split to show both alien commanders. The Saurian scales glistened as it bared teeth in what might have been a threat display. The arachnid's multiple eyes blinked independently. Brooks stood tall. This is Commander Alan Brooks of Earth. We know you're searching for us, so I've decided to speak with you directly. The Saurian spoke first. Surrender your vessel immediately. The arachnid clicked. Your technology will serve the collective. Brooks shook his head. I think you've misunderstood our situation. We have no interest in your war. Our ship was damaged, and we arrived here by accident. We only wish to make repairs and return to our home. Your wishes are irrelevant, the Saurian said. Brooks continued calmly. Before you make threats, you should know something about humans and Earth. Lieutenant Miller, please send them the biological and environmental data we prepared. Miller pressed a button. Sending now, sir. What you're receiving, Brooks explained, is information about humans and our home planet. As you can see, we evolved on what you would consider a death world, though different from your own. Our world has lower gravity but far more complex biological threats. Our bodies contain bacteria that would be lethal to both your species. He paused to let this sink in. The Frontier is not a warship by our standards. It's simply an explorer. Our actual warships are considerably more powerful. This was a lie, but the aliens couldn't know that. Furthermore, Brooks continued, our planet is in a direction away from your territories. We have no interest in the resources you're fighting over. But if attacked, we will defend ourselves. The Saurian and Arachnid commanders were silent for a moment. Then the Saurian spoke. You claim your world is deadly to us. Prove this. Brooks looked at Miller, who nodded. Sending detailed microbial analysis now. Our bodies host over 1 trillion microorganisms from more than 1,000 different species. Many would be deadly to your biological systems. The Arachnid commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. If this data is accurate, direct contact with humans would be problematic. All we ask is safe passage to the 4th planet in this system, Brooks said. We need materials there to repair our ship. Then we will leave your territory and never return. The alien commanders looked at each other across their split screen. Finally, the Saurian spoke. We will verify your biological data. Until then, we will maintain distance, but if you attempt to interfere in our war, you will be destroyed." The screen went dark as both aliens cut the transmission. Carter let out a breath. "Do you think they believed us?" "They believed enough to pause," Brooks replied. "That's all we need for now. Davis, set course for the fourth planet. Full impulse power once we're clear of the asteroid field. Miller, Carter, prepare and away. Team, we need those crystals." The Frontier emerged from its hiding place and moved toward the fourth planet. The alien ships followed at a distance, watching but not attacking. For now, the human bluff had worked, but they still needed to find the crystals and fix their ship before the aliens decided humans were too dangerous to let leave. The USS Frontier approached the fourth planet in the system. From orbit, it looked harsh and unwelcoming. The surface was covered with reddish rocks and deep canyons. The atmosphere contained gases that would kill a human in minutes. Scans show, "The crystals we need are in a mountain range near the equator," Lieutenant Miller reported. "But there's a problem. Both Saurian and Arachnid forces have already set up mining operations on the surface." Commander Brooks studied the sensor readings. "Are they fighting down there too?" "Yes, sir," Miller replied. "There's an active battle happening about 20 kilometers from the crystal deposits." Brooks turned to Security Chief Carter. "Prepare an away team. We need those crystals to get home." Carter nodded. "I'll take Miller, Ensign Sam Wilson for engineering, and 2 security officers." The away team gathered in the transporter room. They wore environmental suits designed to protect them from the planet's toxic atmosphere. Each person carried equipment for mining the crystals and weapons for defense. "The suits will only protect you for 6 hours," Brooks told them. "After that, the filters will fail and the planet's atmosphere will get through, so move quickly and carefully." Carter checked his weapon one last time. "Understood, sir. We'll get those crystals and come back as fast as possible." The team beamed down to the planet's surface, appearing on a rocky ridge. The sky above them was a strange orange color. In the distance, they could see flashes of light from the alien battle. "The crystal deposits should be this way," Miller said, pointing to a narrow canyon. About 3 kilometers. They moved carefully across the rocky terrain. The gravity was stronger than Earth's, making each step harder. Even with their suits, they could feel the heat from the planet's surface through their boots. After an hour of walking, they reached the edge of the canyon. Miller checked her scanner. "The crystals are down there, about half a kilometer in that direction," she said. They climbed down into the canyon, using ropes and their equipment. The walls were steep, and loose rocks made climbing dangerous. When they reached the bottom, they saw something unexpected. A small Saurian mining camp. "Down," Carter whispered, and the team took cover behind some large boulders. Through his binoculars, Carter counted 5 Saurians working at the camp. They wore no environmental protection. This toxic planet was comfortable for them. "We need a distraction," Carter said. "We can't fight them directly." Wilson looked at his equipment. "I have an idea. These scanners emit an energy pulse when set to maximum. If we place them on the other side of the canyon and activate them remotely, the Saurians might think it's an arachnid attack." Carter nodded. "Do it." Wilson and 1 security officer circled around the canyon, placing the scanners behind rocks on the far side. When they returned, Wilson activated the devices. Immediately, the scanners began emitting energy pulses that looked like weapon signatures on sensors. The Saurians reacted quickly. They grabbed their weapons and moved toward the false signals, leaving their camp unguarded. "Now's our chance," Carter said. "Miller, Wilson, get those crystals. We'll keep watch." Miller and Wilson hurried to the mining area. Using their equipment, they identified the quantum stabilizer crystals they needed. They worked quickly to extract several samples and store them in protective containers. "Got them," Miller reported, after 20 minutes of work. Just then, they heard a strange clicking sound. Carter turned to see 3 arachnid soldiers climbing down the canyon wall behind them. "We've got company," he warned. "Arachnids, 3 of them, and the Saurians will be back soon when they realize they were tricked." Miller secured the crystal containers in her pack. "We need to get out of here." "This way," Carter pointed to a narrow side passage in the canyon. If we can reach that ridge, we can call for emergency beam out. They ran toward the passage, but one of the arachnids saw them and made a loud alarm call. The other arachnids turned and began chasing the humans. From the other direction, the Saurians were returning to their camp. They'll trap us between them, Wilson said, his voice tense. Carter made a quick decision. Split up. Miller, you and Wilson take the crystals up that passage. We'll hold them off and meet you at the ridge. Miller hesitated. But that's an order. The mission is to get those crystals back to the ship. Go. Miller and Wilson ran up the side passage while Carter and the two security officers took positions behind rocks. When the first arachnid came into view, Carter fired his weapon. The energy blast hit the ground near the alien, forcing it to retreat. On the other side, the Saurians spotted the humans and opened fire. Energy beams hit the rocks around them, sending sharp fragments flying. We can't hold them for long, one security officer said. Carter nodded. We don't need to. Just long enough for Miller and Wilson to reach the ridge. They continued firing, keeping both alien groups at bay. Meanwhile, Miller and Wilson climbed as fast as they could up the steep passage. The stronger gravity made every step exhausting. Almost there, Miller said, seeing the ridge above them. When they reached the top, Miller tapped her communicator. Miller to Frontier, 2 for emergency beam out. What about Carter and the others? Wilson asked. They'll follow once we're clear. Miller replied, though doubt showed on her face. The familiar sensation of the transporter took them, and seconds later they appeared on the ship. We got the crystals, Miller told Brooks, but Carter and 2 others are still down there holding off aliens. Brooks immediately ordered, lock onto their signals and beam them up. Down on the planet, Carter and his team were running low on power for their weapons. The Saurians had circled around and were closing in from one side while the arachnids advanced from the other. Frontier to Carter, came Brooks' voice over the comm. Stand by for emergency beam out. Not a moment too soon, Carter replied. Just as the first Saurian came into view around the rocks, the transporter activated. Carter and his team disappeared in a shimmer of energy, leaving the 2 alien groups facing each other. Back on the ship, Brooks greeted the away team. Good work. Any injuries? Nothing serious, Carter reported. But those aliens are tough. They move around on that planet like it's nothing. That's because for them, it isn't, Miller explained. What's deadly to us is normal for them, just like Earth would be deadly to them. Brooks nodded. Johnson, get those crystals to engineering. Let's fix our drive and get out of here before those aliens decide we're too interesting to let go. As the Frontier orbited the planet, the alien fleets maintained their distance, but more ships had arrived from both sides. It seemed like their interest in the human vessel was growing, not diminishing. Sir, Martinez called from her station, we're receiving transmissions from both fleets. They're requesting to speak with you. Brooks exchanged worried glances with his officers. Put them through. Let's hear what they want. Commander Brooks straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. Put them on screen, he ordered. The view screen split to show both alien commanders. The Saurians' yellow eyes seemed more intense than before. The arachnids' multiple eyes blinked, in an unsettling pattern. Human Brooks, the Saurian began. Our scientists have analyzed your biological data. We find it concerning. The arachnid's mandibles clicked rapidly. The microbes your body contains would cause severe illness among our kind. Yet you survive with these organisms inside you. Brooks nodded. That's correct. Humans evolved alongside these microbes. What's deadly to you is normal for us, just as your worlds would be deadly to humans. This brings us to an important question, the Saurian continued. Your species represents a third death world in this sector. We must know your intentions. My intentions are simple, Brooks replied. To repair our ship and return to Earth space. We have no interest in your territories or your war. Both alien commanders were silent for a moment. Then the arachnid spoke. Our conflict has lasted for centuries because neither side can gain an advantage. The arrival of a third death world species changes the balance. Brooks frowned. I don't understand. How does our presence change anything? Because, the Saurian explained, whoever allies with humans would have an advantage over the other. Now Brooks understood. You want to form an alliance with us against your enemy. Precisely, both aliens said almost in unison. Brooks looked at his officers. Miller gave a slight shake of her head. Carter's hand moved closer to his weapon. I appreciate your interest, Brooks said carefully. But humans don't enter conflicts without good reason. We have no stake in your war. Yet you are already involved, the Saurian pointed out. By entering this space, by taking resources from the fourth planet, you have become a part of this situation, Martinez whispered from her station. Sir, Chief, Johnson reports the quantum crystals are being installed now. We'll have Hawking drive capability in about 3 hours. Brooks nodded slightly to acknowledge her. I need time to consider your proposals. This is not a decision I can make quickly. Do not delay too long, the arachnid warned. If you will not ally with one side, you may be seen as a threat by both. The transmission ended. Brooks turned to his officers. Options? He asked. We could try to leave as soon as the drive is repaired, Davis suggested. Maximum speed away. From both fleets, Carter shook his head. They'd catch us before we could activate the Hawking drive. Both species have faster ships. What if we did ally with one side? Martinez asked. Just long enough to ensure our safe passage? Miller spoke. Sir, I've been studying the data we've gathered. There's something important you should know. She displayed a star chart on the main screen. Based on navigation data I extracted from their communications, both species have been expanding their territories along this spiral arm. If they continue, at their current rate, they would reach Earth space within 50 years. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Brooks studied the chart with concern. So even if we leave, this war could eventually reach our home, he said quietly. Yes, sir, Miller confirmed. And given what we've seen of their technology and biology, humanity would be at a severe disadvantage in a direct conflict with either species. Brooks paced the bridge, thinking. So we can't just run away from this problem. If these species continue their expansion, Earth will eventually face them, potentially both of them. What can we do? Davis asked. Our one ship can't stop 2 entire alien civilizations. Brooks stopped pacing. No, but maybe we can change how they see each other, and us. He turned to Miller. You said both species evolved on similar planets, correct? Yes, Miller replied. Both developed on high-gravity worlds with extreme environmental conditions. Their evolutionary paths were different, but the challenges they faced were similar. And both see Earth as a death world, just like we see their planets? Brooks continued. Miller nodded. The microbes in our bodies would be deadly to them. The bacteria in our soil, our water, even our breath could cause severe illness or death. Brooks turned to Martinez. Open a channel to both fleet commanders. Together, not separate channels. Martinez worked at her console. Channel open, sir. The alien commanders appeared on screen again, looking surprised to be in a 3-way communication. Commanders, Brooks began. I've considered your proposals for alliance, but before I respond, I want to share something with both of you. He nodded to Miller, who sent a data transmission. What you're receiving is a detailed analysis of all 3 of our worlds, Saurian, Arachnid, and Human. As you can see, all 3 evolved in what the galaxy would consider death worlds, just with different types of challenges. The aliens studied the data silently. For centuries, you fought each other because you believed your species was superior, Brooks continued. Each of you evolved to survive terrible conditions, and each of you succeeded. But look at the data. The challenges were different but equally difficult. The Saurian commander's scales shifted color slightly. What is your point, Human? My point is that all 3 of our species are remarkably similar in one way. We survived against all odds. We adapted to conditions that would kill most other life forms. Instead of fighting each other, we could be learning from each other. The arachnid's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. You suggest we end our war? After centuries of conflict? I suggest you consider a ceasefire, Brooks said. Create a neutral zone in this sector where representatives from all three species could meet. Exchange knowledge, not weapons fire. Why would we agree to this? The Saurian demanded. Brooks leaned forward. Because continuing your war with a third Deathworld species nearby is dangerous for both of you. If humans were forced to choose sides, it would upset the balance you've maintained for centuries. And if humans were forced to defend ourselves against both of you. He let the implication hang in the air. Furthermore, Brooks added, the galaxy is vast. There are likely other threats out there that none of us have encountered yet. 3 Deathworld species working together would be stronger than 3 fighting separately. The alien commanders looked at each other across their split screen. For the first time, it wasn't with hostility. We will consider your proposal, the Saurian said finally. The collective will discuss this possibility, the arachnid agreed. After the transmission ended, Carter looked at Brooks with admiration. That was brilliant, sir. But do you think they'll actually agree? Brooks shrugged. I don't know. But I do know that continuing their war with us in the middle is bad for everyone. Sometimes seeing a new perspective is all it takes to change centuries of thinking. Sir, Johnson's voice came over the comm. The Hawking drive is almost repaired. We should be able to test it in about an hour. Good work, Brooks replied. Stand by. Martinez looked up from her station. Commander, both alien fleets are moving. They're pulling back, creating distance. Are they preparing to attack? Carter asked, alarmed. Davis checked his readings. No, they're just repositioning, maintaining equal distance from us and from each other. Brooks allowed himself a small smile. They're considering it. They're actually considering peace. The bridge crew exchanged hopeful glances. After days of tension, the possibility of resolution seemed within reach. Continue repairs, Brooks ordered. But let's not rush our departure just yet. We might have just stumbled into making galactic history. 2 days passed aboard the USS Frontier. The Hawking drive was fully repaired, but Commander Brooks had not given the order to leave. Instead, the human ship remained in position between the Saurian and Arachnid fleets. All 3 groups maintained a respectful distance from each other. Any updates from either side? Brooks asked as he entered the bridge. Communications Officer Martinez looked up from her station. Yes, sir. Both commanders have requested a meeting. Brooks raised his eyebrows. What kind of meeting? They want to meet with you in person, Martinez replied. They suggest using the 4th planet as neutral ground. The bridge crew exchanged concerned glances. Lieutenant Miller spoke first. Sir, that planet may be neutral, but it's toxic to humans. We can only survive there for a few hours in environmental suits. Both alien commanders know this, Carter added. It could be a trap. Brooks thought for a moment. Or it could be a test. They want to see if we're serious about peace. He made his decision. Tell them I accept. I'll meet them at the coordinates of our previous landing site in 6 hours. Sir, I strongly recommend against this, Carter protested. At least let me go instead. Brooks shook his head. No, Chief. They asked for me specifically. This is too important to delegate. 6 hours later, Brooks stood in the transporter room, wearing an environmental suit. Carter and Miller were with him, similarly equipped. I still think this is too dangerous, Carter said. That's why you 2 are coming with me, Brooks replied with a small smile. 1 representative from each side, with guards. Those were the terms. The 3 officers stepped onto the transporter pad. Moments later, they materialized on the harsh surface of the 4th planet. The same orange sky and red rocks greeted them. In the distance stood 2 small groups, 1 Saurian and 1 Arachnid. Brooks and his officers walked forward. From each alien group, 1 individual stepped forward as well. Brooks recognized them as the fleet commanders. They met at a point equal distance from their starting positions. Up close, the aliens were even more imposing than they had appeared on screen. The Saurian stood nearly 7 feet tall, its scales shifting color slightly in the alien sunlight. The arachnid's multiple eyes studied the humans carefully, its mandibles moving in what might have been a gesture of greeting. Commander Brooks, the Saurian spoke first. We appreciate your willingness to meet like this. The arachnid clicked its mandibles, especially on a world that is comfortable for us but dangerous for you. Brooks nodded. If we're going to build trust, we need to take risks. What have you decided? The alien commanders looked at each other, then back at Brooks. After much discussion, the Saurian said, we have agreed to a temporary ceasefire, 100 of your Earth days. During this time, the arachnid continued, we will establish a neutral zone in this sector. Representatives from all three species will meet here to exchange knowledge. Brooks felt a wave of relief but kept his expression neutral. That's a positive first step. But what happens after the 100 days? That depends on what we learn from each other, the Saurian replied. For centuries we have seen the arachnids only as enemies. It is difficult to change that view quickly. Arachnid's mandibles moved in what might have been agreement. The same is true for us regarding the Saurians, but your arrival has shown us that there are greater challenges in the galaxy than each other, and greater opportunities, Brooks added. Both your species have technologies and biological adaptations that could benefit all three of our peoples. The Saurian commander's scales shifted to a brighter green. There is one more condition to our agreement. We request a human presence during these discussions. Your perspective as a third Deathworld species is valuable. Brooks hesitated. I'm not authorized to establish a permanent human presence here. My mission was exploration only. We understand, the arachnid said. But perhaps you could return, or send other humans. Brooks thought for a moment. I can promise to bring your proposal to Earth. I believe my leaders will see the value in peaceful contact with both your species. Both alien commanders seemed satisfied with this answer. Then it is agreed, the Saurian said. The ceasefire begins now. The arachnid extended one of its limbs. In our culture, this gesture signifies agreement. Brooks reached out and carefully touched the offered limb. Then he extended his hand to the Saurian, who after a moment's hesitation took it. In human culture, Brooks explained, this is how we seal an agreement. When they returned to the frontier, Brooks called a meeting of all senior officers. It's not a permanent peace, he told them, but it's a start. For the first time in centuries, the Saurians and arachnids are talking instead of fighting. Do you think it will last? Davis asked. Brooks shrugged. I don't know, but we've shown them another way. Sometimes that's all people need, to see that there's an alternative to endless war. What about their request for a human presence here? Miller asked. That will be up to Starfleet Command, Brooks replied. But I'll strongly recommend it. Having humans here serves two purposes. We can help maintain peace between these species, and we can learn from them. Both the Saurians and arachnids have technologies we could benefit from. Carter nodded. And they might think twice about expanding toward Earth space if they see us as valuable allies rather than potential enemies. Exactly, Brooks agreed. But that's a problem for another day. Right now, let's go home. Officer Davis, set course for Earth. Prepare to engage the Hawking Drive. As the crew took their positions, Brooks sat in the command chair thinking about everything they had experienced. A simple exploration mission had turned into first contact with two advanced alien civilizations. They had faced danger, made difficult decisions, and somehow managed to broker peace between species that had been at war for centuries. More importantly, they had established humanity's place in the galaxy. When they returned to Earth with their report, everything would change. Humans would no longer see themselves as alone in the universe, but as one of three Deathworld species, each uniquely adapted to survive against impossible odds. Hawking Drive ready, sir, Davis reported. Engage, Brooks ordered. The USS Frontier disappeared in a flash of energy, leaving behind two former enemies who had taken their first steps toward peace. In the vastness of space, three species from three Deathworlds had found common ground, proving that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in fighting but in understanding. As the ship raced toward home, Brooks made his final log entry, Two Deathworlds were at war until a human warship entered the fight. But we didn't end their war with weapons. We ended it with words. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson we've learned on this mission, that even in a hostile universe, peace is possible. You just have to be willing to take the first step.